I know you're not dead. Now tell me, where is that elixir?
What should I do now? I'm going to get in trouble with them again, for sure.
In the last episode, we went over episodes 1 to 6 of Hell's Paradise. If you haven't seen that video yet, check it out before you start this one. If you have been watching the series up until now, you probably thought it was pretty good so far, right? Wrong. The show really begins to pick up momentum here with the introduction of two suspicious-looking babes getting it on atop a tree. Episode 7. While Toma and Chobei explore the forest, they encounter two goddesses kissing atop a tree. The girl stands up asking what humans are doing on her island, revealing her true nature. Unsure of their existence, Chobei asks whether they are monsters like the rest of their encounters. To confirm their suspicion, the blonde girl transforms into a bulk male. Gabimaru and the rest are looking for the elixir when a small girl is caught overlooking them from a distance. Gabimaru is then attacked by a tree monster, protecting the child. Gabimaru makes the decision to chase after her, knowing she might have some clue to finding the elixir. He leaves the others to deal with the tree monster, and Sagiri decides to join him in the chase. Yuzuriha finally unveils her abilities, covering her body in slime, making us wonder what she has in store. Gabimaru easily catches up to the girl, but is flipped, surprising him with her strength. Sagiri catches up to the girl, but is counterattacked when she tries to unveil her hood. Gabimaru steps in and takes the hit, making him sure she has an inhuman power. Gabimaru stops messing around and grabs some whips to tangle the girl up so he can question her further. To his surprise, despite her strength, she begins to cry, making the two unsure what to do next. Sagiri comforts the girl. Gabimaru takes notice that she appears completely human. Yuzuriha and Senka regroup with the others and realize it's a child they are helping. The defeated tree monster begins to talk, pleading with the others to return the child to him. The tree monster tells them he will take the party to a hidden village with food and a bath in exchange for returning the girl. As they arrive, Gabimaru takes notice of the rundown appearance and questions the authenticity of the tree man. Before we continue, today's question of the day is, would you have trusted the tree monster and girl, or would you force them to reveal all their information? On the contrary, Yuzuriha jumps into the bath carefree, asking Gabimaru to join her in. Sagiri also decides to join in on the bath with the excuse that she is watching over Yuzuriha, when in reality she just wants to relax. The child brings the girl some towels, showing her gratitude. While everyone is trying to enjoy the tree monster's amenities, Gabimaru is still on edge, questioning the tree monster. While Gabimaru stays sous of the monster, everyone else eats and enjoys their stay within his village. Tree monster explains that near the center of the island, gods live there guarding the elixir of life. Unlike the given name, the elixir is referred to as Tan on the island. The monster also explains the terrain, the shore being the outside region, village being within the middle region, and the gods living in the middle region. Worry. Gabimaru realizes that he has a chance at returning to his wife. He proceeds to ask questions to the tree monster about its authenticity. Chobei and Toma have already engaged in battle with these beings. Although referred to as gods, they are actually called Tensen. The Tensen harness the Tan and are able to use it to regenerate, change forms, and reinforce their body. Tree monster reveals that the Tensen don't allow anyone to leave, causing Gabimaru to become cautious of the monster's remarks. Tree monster explains to Gabimaru that everyone who is captured by the Tensen are dropped in a pit and reborn as flowers. As the vines entangle Chobei, Toma rescues him frantically. Prove that Tan exists, the tree monster regrows part of his body to show its abilities. He warns them again of the strength the Tensen hold, telling them it will be difficult to leave the island alive. Gabimaru explains everything we just learned to Sagiri, wasn't listening after her bath. Tree monster tells them not to interfere with their life, and they won't mess with them. While Gabimaru and Sagiri discuss their plans, he ends up walking in on the child bathing. He decides to join in. tells her that back in his village everyone bathed together, so it doesn't matter to him whether she's male or female. Sagiri decides to teach the girl how to bathe properly, noticing her skin is in bad shape. Sagiri reveals she has helped people bathe since she was a child. After working her magic, the child's hair is silky smooth, earning her a hug from her. Gabimaru remembers his wife teaching him how to properly take a bath. While Gabimaru is being serious, his wife dumps a bucket of water on his head to ease his tension. During this scene, it reveals the true nature of his wife, always looking after Gabimaru when he's in trouble. He tells her not to hide her scar, saying she is pretty enough as is. This makes his wife overjoyed, probably being the first time he had said something nice to her. Gabimaru reassures the child that scars don't make you any less attractive, referring to his wife. Sagiri concludes that Gabimaru isn't as bad of a person as he was made out to be. While Sagiri looks at him thinking he's improving, thinks of killing the head chief, going back to his wife. Episode 8. Sitting under a tree, dirty and uncaring, we see a man being treated badly by friend and foe alike. With no income, the man had to rob and steal in order to stay afloat, eventually being bumped into by swordsmen they call him trash, pay the price. Before he's able to proceed further, he's cornered by a member of the Yamada clan. Tenza and Nuruwagi venture down the beach, still in search of other survivors, hoping to team up with them. Now knowing that Nuruwagi is a female, Tenza vows to protect her, making Nurugai like him even more. Tenza decides it is best to avoid fighting if they don't have to, but is interrupted by the emergence of a Tensen. Witnessing their gender change, they conclude it's a monster and attempt to run. The Tensen attacks Tenza, leaving him immobile, while Nuruwagi runs to his side to protect him. As the Tensen approaches, Tenza slices his face in half, but it is instantly regenerated. Tenza continues on the initiative, confident in his speed, slicing off all of the Tensen's limbs instantly. The Tensen catches up to them without much struggle, however, is beheaded by Tenza's master, the man from earlier in the episode. This man is introduced as Shion, Tenza's master, who happens to be a blind swordsman. With amazing smell and hearing, Shion is able to navigate the forest despite his blindness. He gives him some words of advice, noticing he relied purely on his speed. Shion, despite his looks, reveals he cares deeply for his student. He reveals he has been looking for a way off of the island, but has had no luck up until now. Tenza urges them to work together, but he draws his blade toward Nurugai. Unknowing to her situation, he reveals he executed his criminal for attempting to seduce him. Tenza speaks for Nurugai, telling his master he committed no crimes and to let him off the hook. Shion reminds Tenza of the responsibilities of the Yamada clan and urges him not to be misguided. Tenza explains the situation and confronts his master's harsh words towards Nurugai. Shion, with his blade still drawn, makes his decision whether to believe in Tenza or not, ultimately letting him off the hook. Shuyan, blind, is still able to instantly tell that Nurugai is a female, making Tenza surprised. Tenza announces their new formed party and urges them to get a move on. Shion tells him to be quiet because the Tensen could be lurking, and on cue he arrives. The Tensen recognizes Shion's strength, being able to survive his surprise attack. The Tensen seems to have a read on Tenza, now dodging all of his quick sword strikes. Knowing he has no other choice, Tenza unleashes a barrage of slices towards the Tensen. Instead of connecting a hit, the Tensen dodges and counterattacks, putting 4 holes in Tenza's body. In a flashback, Tenza questions his master why he chose to help him, knowing he was a delinquent. Shion reveals he can sense a talent within Tenza, which is why he chose to help him. Shion tells Tenza if he wants to become a true samurai, he needs something to protect. Remembering all the people who mistreated him, Tenza puts himself down, knowing he doesn't deserve such a chance. He tells Shion he is tired of all of the harsh training and wants to go back to his life of leisure. Wanting to leave, Shion tells Tenza he must land a blow on him before he is allowed to leave. While attempting to leave, Tenza is approached by Aizen, who asks him to accompany him on a walk. They arrive at a graveyard, and Aizen tells Tenza of Shion's past experiences with his students. Having taken on a troublemaker much like Tenza, Shion has experience in tutoring the challenges. Similar to how Tenza wants to leave, Shion's past disciple fled the dojo and ended up having to rely on crime to get by. After being caught and sentenced to death, Shion ended up having to execute his own student. Aizen reveals why Shion chose him and why he needs to stay at the dojo and become someone that Shion can recognize. Awaiting his arrival, Tenza asks Shion for a duel, hoping to earn his right to leave the dojo. Shion notices that Tenza has changed and accepts his duel. After failing over and over again, Tenza recognizes Shion for being the first person not to give up on him. With 4 wounds and not much blood left, Tenza realizes that this is the end for him. However, despite the difference in strength, he decides not to give up and at least buy enough time for the others to escape. The Tensen stands up, unscathed by his brutal attack, this time being challenged by Shion. Tenza decides he will give his life for the others, tells his master to take Nurugai and run. On the brink of death, Tenza recalls his past memories and imagines what his life could be like if he made it off the island. Nurugai, still a child, doesn't understand the sacrifice that Tenza made. Shion tells Nurugai they all would have died if not for his efforts, vowing to get revenge. Episode 9. Senta tells the group despite his search of the village, he has no new information regarding the Tensen. Senta's head explodes after overthinking all the possibilities that await them, eventually falling asleep. Gabimaru realizes the sooner they take action the better, so he leaves during the night to explore where the Tensen live, the Horai. Upon arriving at a forest, he notices their appearance is similar to the monster that helped them in the village. He notices they are praying toward the center ominously. Gabimaru arrives at the gate to enter the Hoari, but is stopped by one of the Tensen. The Tensen approaches Gabimaru, asking him to leave so that he won't have to fight again. Gabimaru notices he won't let him off the hook this easily, so he strikes first, twisting the Tensen's arm. After another exchange, he wonders if this creature is one of the Tensen, so he lights it on flame using his ninjutsu. Completely burned to a crisp, the Tensen emerges, knocking Gabimaru into the wall. The two continue exchanging blows until Gabimaru pulls off one of the Tensen's arms. The Tensen recognizes Gabimaru as the strongest opponent he has fought thus far. In an unsuspecting event, Gabimaru utilizes Tan himself, dealing a real wound to the Tensen. Realizing they can't mess around anymore, the Tensen sends an energy ball towards Gabimaru. Not only are they strong, but they are also invisible, making it almost impossible to dodge. Knowing getting hit over and over won't help him, he charges in, and the two see who is stronger. Gabimaru overpowers the Tensen completely, asking them the question of where the elixir is. Suddenly, when Gabimaru thought he had the advantage, Tensen transforms into a new form. With 2 bodies and 4 antennas, it reveals itself as the monster it is. Seeming to lose their mind, the Tensen goes on a rampage, striking everywhere in sight. As Gabimaru approaches in close, he is struck by lightning, forcing him to use his ninjutsu. When he attempts to cast his ninjutsu, his body gives in on him. On the verge of death, Gabimaru awakes to the gentle tone of his wife's voice. It happened to be all a dream. Gabimaru is just fine at home with his wife. She assures him everything is okay and offers him some tea to cool his mind. Gabimaru sees through the dream and awakens ready to fight again. Right before his head snaps off, he slices off the arm of the Tensen. The head chief's words resonate in his mind, bringing life back to him, allowing him to break free. Right before the Tensen can finish them off, the girl from the village, Mei, came and protected him. When Sagiri notices Gabimaru is missing, she decides they have to do their job and go find them. The tree monster suggests to Sagiri if they are going to Hoari, it would be best if he accompanied them. Yuzuriha also joins them on the trip up to Hoari, so everyone begins their journey to save Gabimaru. Yuzuriha asks Sagiri if she is ready to fight the Tensen. She suggests she is strong enough. Introduced are all of the Tensen sitting at a table discussing which gender they prefer to take on. Interrupting their chit-chat is a man who appears to be their leader. He alerts the other Tensen that humans are on the island and calls out the Tensen who defeated Gabimaru. The man who initiated the meeting stops him and shows superiority as the oldest. The head Tensen alerts them all that the humans on the island this time are strong and not to take them lightly. He then pulls out a jar filled with tan and proposes a toast to his fellow Tensen. The tree monster alerts the group that there are 7 total Tensen members, called the Immortal. He then tells the group he used to be human himself over 1,000 years ago. When he was a child during his human times, he heard the tale of the 7 Immortals. The curse of his village was to turn into trees and devote their lives to praying towards the Horai. He warns them yet again of the dangers of Horai and urges them not to enter uninvited. Gabimaru awakens from his fight and concludes that if they are monsters, there must be a way to defeat them. He is approached by the Blade Dragon and his monitor teasing his wounded appearance. Episode 10. He trades blows with Gabimaru so fast that the monitor didn't even notice. Gabimaru notices his body is limp and concludes his arm is injured just from his stance. The monitor stops them from starting their fight and asking who the girl behind Gabimaru is. He tells him they will take his information and let him go rather than killing him. Gabimaru knows the two of them are strong and decides to go with a different tactic. He proposes the idea of them working together, knowing they will be stronger as a team. The Blade Dragon is unimpressed with Gabimaru's resolve, calling him cowardly. He explains the abilities of the Tensen to the two and hopes his information will please them. Thrilled by the new information of strong enemies, the two ask where they can find the Tensen. The Blade Dragon then tells the two of his plans of becoming immortal by making a story for everyone to remember. He tells them to be truly immortal is to be renowned throughout history. The three agree to work together to defeat the Tensen, all for their own goals. Mei wakes up finally, and Gabimaru notices that she has transformed from a child to a teen. She says Gabimaru's name, and he instantly rushes towards her demanding information. He asks if she is a Tensen herself, noticing her relation in appearance. Senta begins to ramble on about random theories that could be related to the Tensen. He says there must be a creator of this island or higher being that creates the plant monsters and such. Yuzuriha brings up the idea that the possibility of Gabimaru is already dead. Defeating the Tensen is unlikely, them being over 1,000 years old and practically invincible. Sagiri tells her that she knows for a fact that Gabimaru is alive and doing well. Shion tells us how he he is able to wield a sword so perfectly, him being able to sense the presence of everything around him. He tells Nurugai that he may not be fit for her master, but he can guide her in a better direction. Gabimaru and his group are also under attack from monsters, making it seem that these attacks are organized. While the horde approaches, Gabimaru notices a strong presence in the distance. The Tensen seem relaxed, one of them telling the other not to kill the humans, but to throw them in the pit alive. Chobei and Tuma emerge alive from the pit, thirsty for revenge. Chobei noticed that the Tensen regenerated from bottom down, bringing him to the conclusion that their lower half is their weakness. The two are then approached by a monster capable of speech, much like the Tensen. He says he is a man of reason, coming to investigate whether the two of them survived. The monster tells them he is a right-hand man of the Tensen, and prays they go back into the pit to become the Tensen drink. The monster notices Chobei's strength, and concludes he must have consumed some of the monsters, giving him superhuman strength. Chobei orders his brother to help him, and the two fight back relentlessly against the monster. He concludes that from consuming the monsters, he got some parts of the Tan within them, giving him access to Tao. The monster notices his weak point and strikes, knocking Chobei to the ground. Episode 11. Having been knocked to the ground, Toma rushes over to his brother, hoping to save him. Chobei awakens and rips a part of the monster's face off. He notices that Chobei's throat regenerated with the power of Tao. Knowing of the existence of Tao, Chobei harnesses his Tao stronger, intimating the monster. The monster is in awe of his learning ability, recognizing his feats, but Toma worries he will turn into a monster if he continues down his path. The monster mentions this to him, asking if he still feels human after his newfound power. Chobei knows there is one thing he needs to protect no matter what. Needing to save his brother, Chobei strikes at the monster's lower half, confirming his suspicion. The monster realizes he is in a pickle and attempts to call over his minions, but is stopped by Toma, standing atop them all. Being unable to deal with the constant attacks, the monster is brought down to his knees and attacked by Chobei. Toma approaches carefully, noticing the scars around his injuries. The Blade Dragon asks Mei if he is getting closer to using Tao. She tells him it is weak and strong at the same time. Gabimaru continues to slay all of the monsters while the monitor dissects them. He tells them that he learns a lot about their weaknesses and abilities by analyzing them. Gabimaru glances over to Mei, wondering what she is, taking note of the large sphere she used to save him. She begins crying from the constant slaughter, no one getting the Tao correct. Suddenly, Mei is approached by the right-hand man to the Tensen, welcoming her home. He reveals she is a Tensen that was banished from Horai, but she is welcome again. The three realize she is a Tensen, become weary of her. Gabimaru hesitates, but eventually comes to Mei's rescue, protecting her from the monster. The monster tells Gabimaru it is none of his business to stop him, but Gabimaru refuses to leave. He thanks Mei for protecting him and tells him fighting is the only option. The Blade Dragon sees one of the monsters create the insects that have been bugging him on the island and becomes enraged. He strikes, but is unable to deal any real damage to the monster. Gabimaru notices they can use the invisible attacks much like the Tensen, so he charges in for close range. While Gabimaru and the Blade Dragon fight, the monsters organize their thoughts and make a plan. Gabimaru decides to ignore the Blade Dragon and asks the monsters why they want Mei so much. The monsters then tell them that she is essential to harnessing their Tao. He says the best method of training his Tao is by having 18+ activities with a partner, Mei being the perfect partner. Similar to Yin and Yang, the training method is the most effective method, having been invented by the Tensen. Gabimaru takes note that the Yin and Yang differences relate to their constant gender change. The monster then tells Gabimaru and the others they need Mei to further their powers. Tells us that Mei betrayed the other Tensen and was given the chance to die or be a training partner, but she fled instead. Enraged, Gabimaru releases his presence, striking a moment of fear into everyone around. The monsters then transform into their monster form, desperate to win in battle. While in battle, the Blade Dragon seems to have been stung by one of the insects, making him weaker than usual. Gabimaru then uses his ninjutsu on the monsters and attempts to harness his Tao during the stall. The monitor tells Gabimaru that his mind must be strong and body weak to properly harness the Tao. As Mei attempts to help Gabimaru harness his Tao, he remembers all the moments important to him. He seems to have the hang of it, so Gabimaru walks through the flames, and Mei notices his increased strength. Gabimaru dodges all of the monster's projectiles and charges towards it. The others are amazed at his strength when Gabimaru dodges and counterattacks the monster. Gabimaru enters the zone. Understanding the Tao, he stops the monster's attack with a simple hand gesture. The monster notices that Gabimaru's strength rivals even the Tensen. The monster realizes his defeat and tells Gabimaru information on his companions. Just when we thought the battle was over, the monster attempts to deal a blow to the Blade Dragon, but is intercepted. Gabimaru and the Blade Dragon then finish off the monsters before them ending the fight. As Sagiri and the others arrive in Hawari, they are met with a Tensen who instantly beheads the tree monster helping them. Episode 12. He greets them and congratulates them for making it this far. Yuzuriha attempts to run, but is instantly stopped in her tracks by the Tensen. Sagiri, however, doesn't back down and draws her blade, asking who the man before them is. The thought to be a dead tree monster answers her, telling her that the man is a Tensen. The tree monster prays that he will be accepted into Horai after he prays like his family, but it's shot down as a lie by the Tensen. The Tensen brings out some humans he created by infusing his Tao with. He then tells them that usually humans are used for Tan, or also known as the elixir of life. He also tells them there is no elixir of life, and that the only thing here is the Tan for them to drink. Right before he can bring them to the pit, Yuzuriha strikes the Tensen, beheading it. Assured of her victory, she turns her back and urges Sagiri to proceed into Horai with her. The Tensen gets up and regenerates his head, while sending in a counterattack. Senta approaches and decides to protect the others, so he steps forth with his sword drawn. Sagiri questions Senta's motives, wanting to protect a criminal. The Tensen attempts to guide Yuzuriha down the path of mastering Tao. Senta interrupts this by slicing off the legs and arms of the Tensen. Now immobilized, Yuzuriha uses her ninjutsu to burn his body to bits, but he is able to regenerate too quickly. The Tensen proceeds to dodge all of Senta and Yuzuriha attacks, eventually overpowering them. The Tensen reminds them of their chances of winning, claiming himself as a god when in Horai. Sagiri pleads with the tree monster, asking for a tip on how to beat the Tensen, knowing he will never see Mei again. If they lose, he folds. Sagiri approaches and cuts into his stomach, slicing his tendon, center point of all the Tao. However, without using Tao, Sagiri doesn't deal much damage to the Tensen. The Tensen tells her this, so this time she strikes again, but with some Tao making him unable to regenerate the wound. Right before he can strike back, Tensen is stopped by Yuzuriha. The fight continues until the Sagiri starts to pin the Tensen. With each slash dealing more damage, she attempts to finish him off, but he starts flying. Switching to female, she now uses projectiles, launching hundreds of attacks towards them. Yuzuriha stands firm, still able to fight, and motivates Sagiri to fight on as well. Upon hearing this, the Tensen launches an attack, raining projectiles upon them. During this, Yuzuriha sticks her slime to the Tensen and brings them down to the ground. Senta emerges from behind, impaling the Tensen, and Sagiri charges forward, slicing the Tensen's abdomen. He falls to the ground, moveless, making it seem like they won. As they celebrate their victory, Sagiri becomes anxious, thinking it was too easy to defeat the Tensen. Yuzuriha notices that all of the statues in the garden are made out of pure gold. She attempts to steal some. Sagiri asks Senta if he has romantic feelings toward Yuzuriha, to which he says he admires how free she is. He tells Sagiri he wasn't allowed to choose whether he was an executioner or not, and that he hates killing people. He tells her he was simply following his duties this whole time, not enjoying it. Since meeting Yuzuriha, he has experienced new emotions, making him feel sorry for himself. Sagiri says she can relate to him. Since meeting Gabimaru, she has experienced new emotions herself. She concludes by asking Senta to help her find a way everyone can leave the island alive. Gabimaru now knows about Tao and how to roughly use it, but he knows he has yet to master it. He approaches Mei, asking what her purpose for approaching Gabimaru initially was. The monitor notices Gabimaru's soft side, despite how he was recorded. As they are relaxing, Yuzuriha notices a pile of flowers stacked up upon the body of the fallen Tensen. Senta watches as it attacks Yuzuriha, showing he is shy to reveal his feelings. He's then covered by flowers after jumping in to save her. The Tensen reappears, this time in its true form. Sagiri and Yuzuriha realize their fate, knowing they can't possibly defeat the monster again. Just before they are cut in half, Shiu comes to the rescue, slicing the Tensen's attack. Episode 13. Sagiri for Shion to save Senta, knowing he is stronger than anyone else there. Shion demonstrates his Tao by surrounding himself with it. As the Tensen attempts to strike, he slices the attack in half, showing he is on the same level as it. After cutting all of the flowers off, Sagiri asks the tree monster if there is any way to help save Senta. Yuzuriha approaches, saying she has a method to stop the bleeding. Nurugai assures the rest that Shion can take the Tensen and not to worry for him. As the Tensen continues to attack, Shion dodges and weaves, avoiding all of the incoming attacks. He counterattacks, striking the Tensen back, causing it not to regenerate either. After barely scratching Shion, he cuts all of the flowers off, leaving his body fatally wounded. While Shion attempts to take down the beast, the other watches from afar, rooting him on in the process. Sagiri knows Shion doesn't stand much of a chance, so she steps forward, hoping to assist him. Hoping to help, Nurugai goes to Sagiri and Yuzuriha, giving them a hug, sending his Tao through them, thus healing them. With a little bit of extra energy, Sagiri and Nurugai join the battle to assist Shion in taking down the Tensen. Yuzuriha reveals that after wrapping themselves in bandages and Yuzuriha's mucus, they are immune to the flower attack. The Tensen continues to strike, is overwhelmed by Sagiri's precise movements. Shion decides to go with Sagiri's plan and strikes down some of the Tensen's whips. After striking it a couple more times, Shion knocks the monster down, revealing a weakness to Yuzuriha. Shion, despite being covered in blood, continues to fight, knowing if he dies here, the others won't be able to make it out alive. He charges in with hatred towards the Tensen, having killed his student. He proceeds forward, eventually landing right above the tendon. Shion harnesses his Tao and prepares to release it all in one attack, but is stopped by his hesitation. Senta awakes for a moment and tells him to strike its center. This time, without hesitating, Shion slices open the center, revealing the face of the Tensen. He cuts it in half, ending the fight and making the Tensen vanish for good this time. Having defeated one of the Tensen, Sagiri and Yuzuriha rush towards Senta's side. Sagiri asks Yuzuriha to use her medicine on him, but she refuses, knowing she might need it for herself. Sagiri tears up at the thought of losing another companion, while Yuzuriha tells Senta it's his time to go. She tells him to think about what he wants the most while cradling him. Senta realizes just being in Yuzuriha's arms is enough for him to be satisfied. Sagiri stands over the battlefield and thanks the others for helping her survive. She proclaims the criminals humans too, and urges them to work together regardless of their background. As he awakens, Gabimaru stands up frantically and searches his surroundings. On the other hand, Sagiri and the others proceed deeper into Haori, eventually stumbling upon a few rooms with extra clothes and beds. Shion urges Sagiri to rest, despite her eagerness to escape the island. They review their current information and discuss how to master Tao. He uses Sagiri as an example of how through her battle experiences, she has strengthened her Tao. He says though it may be strong, the after effects of Tao are unknown. To conclude, Shion says the elixir of life is most likely not real, but Sagiri protests with Gabimaru's first-hand experience. Yuzuriha says it was most likely an illusion to trick him into never betraying the village. Yuzuriha also mentions that Gabimaru having a wife is unlikely because it makes him weaker. She asks if Gabimaru ever mentioned his wife's name, questioning the authenticity of his wife. Gabimaru reveals that he has lost his memories and is unsure who the people sitting at the fire alongside him are. Mei asks Gabimaru if he is okay, recognizing that his Tao is off. Hoping to lighten the mood, Shion cracks a joke to Sagiri, but she gets serious. She remembers all of the fallen companions she has met along the way. Shion asks Sagiri what she thinks of Gabimaru, to which she tells him she feels bad for him. She believes that his wife is real, and that one day Gabimaru will reunite with his wife. As Gabimaru overlooks the island, he has a memory of his wife disappearing.